The Lord of Darkness, Part 2, The Beginning of the World, Chapter 6, The First Undesirable Assignments. Obviously, Noah's Ark didn't happen. God never tried to destroy Earth in a flood. How preposterous. First of all, they love you and wouldn't do such a thing. And second of all, if they wanted to destroy you in a flood, you'd have been destroyed in a flood. If you were an early human who lived near a river, floods were relatively regular and had significant impacts on your yearly success. So of course your creation and destruction myths involved floods. Humans were nowhere near capable of multidimensional technology, so two of each type of animal on Earth wouldn't fit on a boat. And how would they even have collected them all? Also, Noah only brought family on board, so they'd have to repopulate the Earth with inbreeding. Furthermore, God didn't create the rainbow to express their promise not to flood the world again. A rainbow is a terrible covenant. It's far too vague to be binding in any way. Plus, you'd already seen the effects of light reflecting through water droplets in the air. It's beautiful, but not a promise from God. 1,000 years after Nick introduced the humans to the knowledge of good and evil, God summoned him for his first penance assignment. The blue void door appeared in front of Nick, and he stepped through it curiously. Hi. It is time, announced God, who was manifested as a Neanderthal wearing a spacesuit. Time for... Oh, right, Nick replied, starting with confusion and ending with trepidation. The humans must be geographically isolated from each other, God told him, gesturing towards a suddenly present map of Earth. You shall destroy the ice bridge that connects these two continents. Why? We must force them into scenarios where they confront outsiders repeatedly over time, they explained. Things will look dark for a while, but it is the best way to teach them the absurdity of their prejudices. That doesn't seem right, Nick said, as the picture on his shirt changed from a question mark to a burning bridge. Nick, you merely need to trust me, replied the Almighty. Now, pay attention. One miscalculation in the heat differential could extinguish humanity in an instant. God proceeded to explain exactly how Nick was meant to exacerbate the climate change to ensure the destruction of the Bering Land Bridge. I won't bore you with the details. Over the next several millennia, Nick completed a wide variety of penance assignments that were important but too mundane to bother recounting. He was also perpetually swamped with Archangel of Penance duties, which left very little time for his Archangel of Faith work, let alone time for himself. In Uxor's Hell, Nick had maintained a small staff of trained angels to help guide each soul through their individual journey to heaven. In Earth's Hell, all his original staff eventually resigned when they couldn't handle the workload. He didn't really blame them. They'd been pulled away from vacation early to handle significantly more difficult demons than anything they'd seen. Nick scrounged up replacements, but didn't have time to train them properly, so they all quit too. When he ran out of other options, Nick sent out a request for a quick Archangel meeting. We all instantly accepted, since we hadn't seen him in centuries. We arrived in the beige void to find him sitting cross-legged on the conference table. His usually expressive t-shirt was blank. Hi, Nick said tiredly. We all started talking at once, largely expressing surprise at seeing him and concern about his absence. He waited for us to quiet down before responding. I've been real busy, Nick explained. That's actually why I'm here. I got a proposal for a new penance policy. Obviously, they're still going to start with helping people they wronged in life, but when those people are all dead, I want to redirect some of their penance to help run hell. I second the proposal, Michael said immediately, eager to support his recently reclusive friend. What percentage of their efforts do you plan on redirecting? Asked Archangel Raphael of Healing and Patience. Nick scowled. I'm not going to let unworthy souls into heaven if that's what you're implying. Then I don't see any harm in it, Raphael decided. Any objections? Very well, proposal approved. Great, Nick sighed with relief. Without another word, he teleported away in a haze of shadows. Bye, Archangel Jophi of Humility said sarcastically to the empty air. Let's not forget how much pressure Nick's under, Michael reminded us. This new plan will free up more of his time, and he'll be back to his old self before we know it. It was a pattern. Nick would occasionally appear for work-related reasons, then vanish just as suddenly, and Michael would make excuses for him. We'd complain about the extra work we had to do now that humanity was damaged, and Michael would point out that each new consequence was not a new thing that Nick had done wrong. We'd lament over the suffering of humans, and Michael would remind us that Nick was trying his hardest to make amends. We'd bring up the time Nick scratched a scar into Lucifer's face, and Michael would point out that no one is perfect. Michael would invite Nick to all our social gatherings, and Nick would decline them. Eventually, Nick stopped responding to the invitations altogether, but Michael kept sending them, convinced he could accelerate the return to normalcy he craved. And the centuries crawled by.